Hi everyone, Samantha back here for another video, another tutorial. Hope you're all doing okay. Life's treating you well. Today I thought we'd have a look at these little cuties. Aren't they lovely? So I've made these guys using simply copper washers, okay, which you can buy in any hardware store or online. There's lots and lots and lots of lovely things that you can do with copper washers, and I use them quite a lot. They're really affordable. I love the fact that you can make some really beautiful things out of pretty much inexpensive materials. And I've got really hideous hands. They're like man hands, sadly. So I do like to pretty them up with nice jewellery, and I think these guys are really cute. So today we're going to be making one of these 3 bead or stone effect rings with copper washers, a little bit of wire, and literally 3 beads. So let's go through some of the materials that we'll need. Okay, so obviously copper washers. You can get these in sets from large online retailers. They come in a variety of sizes. Obviously the little tiny ones, no good for rings, but you can use those for earrings, which I've done a lot of, and we'll have a tutorial at some point for those. I've got really big hands, so I need the larger copper washers to make rings for myself. This guy here was made with a washer that size, okay. Excuse me. And this guy here and this smaller one here were made with the same size washer, but as we'll go through in a little while, the amount of pressure that you hammer this against the steel ring mandrel will determine the size and the thickness of the ring, okay. So this ring here is made from this size, but this ring also is made from this size, but as you can see they're actually different ring sizes, and this one is thicker than this one, okay. So as long as you don't go too big and too thin, you'll find that you know, one washer will work for a variety of sizes, okay. So for this tutorial today I'm using this size, which is this one here, which is a, I don't know if you can see that, 16 by 22 by 1.5 millimeter, okay. So 1.5 millimeter width, depth, you know, and then 22 across, okay. So if you want to have a look online and find some fabulous little copper washers, that's brilliant. So that's what we're using today. Okay, we're also going to need flush cutters for your wire that we're going to use to wind the beads on. You're going to need a couple of pairs of really sturdy chain nose pliers, okay, and I'll show you the reason why they need to be sturdy when we get going. They need to be, you know, a decent handle and quite a decent heft to them, you know, so they need to be a good strong set. You're going to need a steel mandrel. Now we're going to be doing quite a lot of hammering today, and obviously I would suggest you use a steel mandrel. I think you can probably get away with a wooden one, but I wouldn't advise it, mainly because you're going to bash it up quite a bit, because this, you know, this does require a bit of hammering. You're also going to need a decent sized hammer, so just a general jeweller's hammer, chasing hammer will be fine. The weightier the better, so if you've got a couple of these in your kit, use the one that's a little bit more heavy, okay. You're going to need your steel bench block, and that's basically when we've finished making the ring itself, you're just going to need to hammer it flat, just to flatten out the edges a little bit to make sure that they're not sharp, okay. So you're going to need that. You are going to need a couple of these cute little files. Now you can buy these from major online retailers or craft stores, modelling stores, that kind of thing. You're going to need a flat one and you're going to need a half round. Okay, so grab those if you have them. If you don't, then like I say, you can get them pretty inexpensively off larger online retail stores. You're going to need some beads. Now, for this little one here, I've used 3mm beads, which I think look quite cute. These are 6mm beads for this one. They stand out, you know, quite a lot more. So it's up to you. I wouldn't go any further up than 6mm, basically, because when you're wrapping, you'll just find that these guys stick out a little bit too much and make it look a little bit untidy. So 3, 4, 6mm beads, even 2. They need to be rounded beads. So if you're thinking of using the seed beads, if you can use the seed beads that are rounder rather than the cylindrical ones, then that'd be great. That will work better. Okay. So I've used today these lovely faux pearls, which I think will look really nice against the copper. And last but not least, you're going to need some wire. Now, the bigger the bead, the thicker the wire, I would say. So for my 3mm beads, I've used 0.5mm wire to do the wrapping. Okay. And for the gauge, I'll pop the gauge in the description for you. Okay, I think that is all you're going to need. So let's clear things away and we'll go through how to make these lovely, cute, inexpensive copper washer rings. Okay, see you in a few. Okay, so we're back. Hopefully you've got all your equipment ready and you've chosen your little copper washer. Choose bare copper. Mainly because it'll suit your bare copper wire better, and if you want to put a patina on it, then it will obviously work better than something that's coated, so always go for bare copper washers. You'll find that this one particular size will make a variety of ring sizes, from the smaller one that I have here is around about a size O, okay, to this larger one that I've made for myself, which is around about an S.5 to a T. Okay, so you know, have a play around with the different copper washers that you'll get in your kit, or you can buy them individually. Okay, and just sort of work out what size you are. Now, when we go through the process, I'll explain the process of how to make the larger size from the one washer. Okay. So obviously that doesn't fit on my hand at all, and you won't believe that that comes from that, would you? Okay, so let's have a look. First thing we need to do is turn this guy inside out, so to speak. Okay, so you need to come in with your really substantial chain nose pliers. Okay, now what we're aiming to do is to bend it so it's not flat, but that it's standing upright. So take your chain nose pliers and start to bend nice and evenly and gently all the way around. You can use both sets of pliers, but at this particular stage I prefer to use my thumb and my fingers, because it means I can get in there and actually feel what's going on. Okay, so I don't know if you can see on camera that that's now starting. Can you see? To bend inwards. So keep going all the way around, keep bending. Those of you who don't have huge man hands like me, you might be better off with 2 pairs of the chain nose pliers, okay? So just keep going around. Keep going around until you start to see it moving into an upright position rather than a flat one, if that makes sense. Okay. You see how that's starting to turn from an upright, from a flat position into an upright position. So just keep going around, keep going around. I might even put some music over this part just so you don't get bored of listening to me breathing down into the camera. You just want to take this steadily. Don't rush anything, like with everything else that we do. You know, be mindful. Make it about the process rather than the finished result. Okay, so just keep going around. Hurts your hands after a little while, so if you need to take a break, do so. Or, like I said, for those of you with hands not like mine, the more delicate, more ladylike hands, you can come in with your 2 sets of pliers and, you know, manipulate them, you know, sort of like this around. Okay, so let's keep going until you get to a point where you can't really do it anymore, which I'm getting towards that now. Okay, so you end up with something that looks horrendous, looks a little bit like this, and you think, oh, how am I going to make this gorgeous ring out of something like that? You can. I promise you, trust the process. Okay, so you will find that one side is on an angle to the other because you can't actually bend it so that it's flat. Okay, and that's when your hammering comes in. Okay, so the next stage of the process is to bring in your ring mandrel. Okay, and as you can see, if you can see the angle of it, this side is narrower than this side, which seems to splay out a little bit. Okay, so this is where the ring mandrel and the hammering comes in. So pop it on the mandrel as lower down as you can. So here you can see that my ring is measuring an M at the minute. Okay, so just watch the magic happen. Okay, you come in with your decent size hammer. I tend to hold the mandrel against my stomach, just because that's sort of the way I do it. If you want to, you know, sort of lean it on a cloth like so, or however you like to do it, is up to you. So we've got a bit of hammering to be done now. So essentially, you just keep resetting it, rehammering and resetting. Pay particular attention to the top part of this, where it's splaying outwards slightly. So the hammering that we do at this particular stage will bring it into line. And make it flatter. Okay, it will look distorted. Okay, don't worry about that for now. Okay, so keep going around. If you find you have to just knock it off a little bit, just knock downwards like that. Okay, so just keep going around and around until you pretty much get to about a size larger, smaller than what you want. Okay. Okay, so this is what we now start to have. So if you can see, these edges here are a little bit rough, and obviously they're a little bit rough where we've been using the pliers. Okay, so there you go. Can you see how that's now starting to take shape as an actual ring? Okay, so it's all about the hammering at this particular stage, and it's all about bringing one side into line with the other. Because like I say, when you first start to hammer it, it is sort of wider on one side and narrower on the other. Okay, so just keep hammering and hammering until you get it to the point where you're happy with it. Okay, Okay, so as I said earlier in the video, this particular size ring, O-ring or washer or whatever you want to call it, will make various sizes of ring. So this being about an N or an M, obviously will fit my little finger. And I've hammered it out to fit this finger, which is about an S1/2. Okay, so all you need to do to enlarge the ring is to keep very, very gently pushing down, because as you remember, that started out as an M. We're now on about a P, okay? For you guys in America and other parts of the world that don't use the letters, and just have a look at an online equivalent here, okay? I think a T might be about a size 10. So what's that, about 7? Something like that, okay? So if you want to make it slightly bigger, all you have to do is still very gently keep hammering it, bringing it down the shaft of the mandrel, then hammer it a little bit more. What that will do is it will thin the the width of the copper washer a little bit. So this guy here obviously is going to be thinner than this guy here, so if you see what I mean. So as long as you don't make the shaft to the ring itself too thin, you should be fine. Okay, so I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Same washer, different sizes. Just keep hammering them and then push it down a little bit, and then hammer, and then push it down a little bit. Okay, so you get the picture. The next thing we have to do is to just flatten these outside surfaces a little bit. Okay, so let me just get my glasses. Okay, so take your cloth to deaden the sound. I'm going to put some music over this, over these hammering parts, guys, so you don't have to listen to the awful hammering sounds. Okay, so just very, very lightly hammer down on the surface, the surface of this ring here. Okay, turn it over. Obviously mind your fingers. And what that does basically is if there's any parts of it that are a little bit undulating, it just straightens everything up nicely, okay? And brings pretty much everything into line. I mean, you're never going to get it exactly flat because this is an artisan piece of jewellery. You're hand making these. They're not supposed to be superbly perfect. The whole point of these guys is that you make them yourself and they are beautifully individual and one of a kind. Okay, so don't get too hung up about that. But, you know, as you can see, the surfaces are flat, give or take. Okay, so that's that part done. Let's just remove these. Okay, so here's the beginnings of our ring. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the hammering done. Now what we need to do is to bring in our little files and make sure that we don't have any sharp surfaces. Okay, so I tend to start with the flat. Okay, and I go around the outside surface. Okay, so I hold it like so, and literally go around, move it around in the fingers, just run your finger across the surfaces of these outside edges. Do that until you can't feel any sharp points, okay? Flip the ring over and do the same on the other side. Okay, so those outside edges now should be. And if you have to reverse and go around the other way, then that's fine. Like I said, it's all about the process. Okay, so for those of us who have electric Dremel type machines and things like that, you could use that if you wanted. Obviously it's a much faster process. This particular tutorial is for the beginner actually, so you know, the beginner would be able to affordably get these little files. Okay, so if you're a lot more advanced and you want to use your electric drills and things, then that's absolutely fine, just bring those in. Okay. Now what we need to do is do the same, but on the inside edges of your ring. And this is where the half circle domed. I wouldn't use a circular one because you're going to gouge too much in. So I would suggest you use the half circular ones for this and pop it inside the ring here. So you've done the outside edges. Now it's time to do both of the inside edges. So you do exactly the same thing. Okay, just keep turning as you go. Holding it nice and securely in the fingers. And this basically just takes off the sharp edges. Okay, it's going to go back on the mandrel again for a little bit of a tap, so don't worry too much. Okay, so that's that edge done. Do the same with the other inside edge. You're going to have some little copper dust coming off these when you do this. So I would suggest you use a little mask, just so you're not breathing the particles in. Safety first. Okay, so that's you done. So I think once you've had a good feel around the edges to make sure that they're all nice and filed down and nice and smooth, that's good. The next thing to do is to bring your block back. Okay, just give it a gentle tap again. Tap slightly at an angle if you like, just to give it a bit of a pattern around the outside. Turn it over, do it again. So if you can see, I'm sort of tapping on an angle here across the edge of the ring. That will just help to bring in any tiny further sharp edges that you may have. That's perfect. Okay, so this is what we're getting left with. Okay, so now if you wanted to pop it back on your ring mandrel, just to check the sizing, I've taken it from an M to a P here. So just give it a little last tap. Okay, and that's your ring done. So you can have a look at that and be really pleased with yourself, because how beautiful does that look? Even if you just left it like a band ring, that would be just perfect. And as you can see, as you've been hammering, you've given it a really pretty texture. If you wanted to leave it at that, then you could. But for this tutorial, we're going to be attaching a couple of beads on, okay? So we'll do that now. Okay, so for my smaller beads here, these are 3mm. I'm going to be attaching 3 of these. You could attach however many you want, even, you know, how many children you've got, like I say again, how many marriages you've had. So I'm going to do 3 today, okay? So let's take our 3 beads. Okay, so take a little bit of wire. I don't know, you're probably going to need about 20 centimetres, something like that, 15, 20 centimetres. You don't need a huge amount. So take your flush cutters. It's always better to have a little bit more wire than not enough, I always find. Okay, so take your beautiful ring that you've just made wonderfully, pop your wire inside like so. This is just basic wire wrapping technique, okay? So you want to anchor this piece of wire onto the ring that you've just made. So you just wrap it round 2-3 times, okay? And then keep wrapping, pull it through. Okay, so that you've got so many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps, I think. Okay, and then squeeze together. We'll get rid of this guy, this little hanger on here in a little while. So if you find that you need to tighten your wires up, your little wires here up a little bit, just give them a squish, and just give them a squish, just to make everything nice and secure and tight. Again, like I say, this is artisan made. It doesn't have to be perfect. I quite like the idea that they're not. Okay, so take your first little bead, pop it onto the wire. Obviously make sure the bead and the wire are, you know, they fit, that your wire fits your bead before you start, because it's really annoying if they don't. Okay, so here's your bead on your wire. So bring it over the top and secure the bead like so. Push the wire back through. Okay, keeping everything nice and secure and tight. And then wind and through. And then wind over and through. Okay, so that you have 2 wraps. You can do 3 if you like, it depends on how close. Okay, let's do 3. Let's do 3 wraps. Okay, so as you can see there, we've got 5, and then the bead on, then 3. Let's pop another bead on. Okay, so securely pop the bead on top of the ring band and pop the wire through the band. Okay, and then over and through, keeping everything secure and squished together as you're going. Over and through, and over and through. Okay, can you see? So now we have 2 beads. Okay, let's do one more. So we'll pop another one of these beautiful little 3mm pearls onto the wire. Okay, keeping it in place, pop the wire through like so, and over and through. All the time keep your fingers, you know, to keep these guys nice and in place. Okay, squeeze together as you're going, over and through. Okay, can you see? We now have our 3 little beads attached to the wing band. So we've got 5 wraps on this side So we need to finish with 5 wraps on the other side, just for making it look equal and pretty. And through. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more, and through. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got 1 wire coming out one side and 1 wire coming out the other. That's exactly what you should have. Okay, so just give things a little bit of a move around. Okay, so then you need to come in with your cutters. You don't want this wire to be directly underneath, because you'll find that it may be a little bit scratchy along the finger. So what you're trying to aim for really is to cut it so that it's halfway up the shaft of your ring. Okay, can you see here? You then come in with your chain nose and we do what we call burnish the wire. So we grab the wire like so and run our pliers over the top of it and gently burnish the wire so that it flattens it. Can you see that? It flattens it against the shaft of the ring band. Okay. So we do the same with the other side. Cut it so it's not playing the game with me today. Okay, let's just cut it about there and then burnish it. So hold the pliers and run them in the rolling motion, if you will, against the band. And as you can see, the shiny part means, can you see how shiny that's getting? Just means that it's smushed up nice and neatly. Okay, so that's it. That's your beautiful copper and bead ring, literally made from a copper washer. And how beautiful does that look? I absolutely love making really pretty jewellery out of very, very few materials. I mean, you can make anything you like out of these guys. Like I say, I've made a couple in this particular size. I mean, you can stack them even if you wanted to. You can make them with 1 bead, which I will show you in a different tutorial. That's a nice beautiful pearl there. Or you can make them with larger, no more than 6mm, I would say. And these are just a milky opal type beads. So you can see the copper through the bead, which I think gives it a real nice flash. Okay, so have fun trying that out. Let me know how you found the tutorial in the comments. I'd love to know what you make, how many beads you use, etc, etc. And have a lot of fun making them. Like I say, just make bands out of them. You can either put a patina on them, or you can seal the copper with something like Renaissance sealing wax, which I'll do a tutorial on at some point. There are other tutorials on YouTube that you can find for that. It just helps the copper to stop tarnishing. But yeah, have fun, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.